welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to make this beautiful design. We shall start with the top and then later on we shall make the bottom, which is the skirt. But for today we are focusing on the top, and this is an image that a client of mine sent me and they wanted me to recreate it in crochet. As you can see, this is knitted, but we are going to learn how to make it in crochet. And yeah, I stayed true to the colors of the inspirational photo. So as we go along, you'll be seeing me switching colors to several other colors. And I used a 4mm crochet hook, a pair of scissors, measuring tape, and yarn. For the yarn, I used 2 strands of light fingering weight yarn. But if you don't want to use a double strand, then you're going to substitute with a DK weight yarn. And this is a beautiful project to experiment with scrap yarn. Choose your colors wisely. And then I have decided to call this the textured mesh halter top, simply because we have the textured stitch incorporated into the mesh pattern for this halter top. So that's what I've decided to call it. This design also has a written pattern on all my online shops. You can check the pattern out in the description box as well as on the screen. And yeah, let's begin with the top, and later on we shall learn how to make the skirt as well. All right, so you're going to grab your 4mm crochet hook and your very first color. This is going to be the top color at the top of the halter top. And we're going to make a slip knot. And I'm going to dictate the number of chains to start with. For me, I'm going to start with a chain of 30. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have my 30 chains, and this will apply for the smaller sizes: extra small, small, medium. And then for the larger sizes, which is large, extra large, 2XL, you're going to start off with a chain of 34. So this is giving me a total of 7 inches. But for the larger sizes, you're going to have a total of 8 inches. You don't want this stretch to be very long. Now we're going to start on our textured stitch right away. So you're going to go into the second chain from the hook and place a single crochet. So insert your hook, pull through all. That's a single crochet, and then a double crochet into the next chain, single crochet into the next, and double crochet into the next. So you're going to repeat this all the way across until the end of the row. All right, so we're coming to the end of the row, and I'm going to end my row with a double crochet into the very last chain. So I have an extra chain here, but my aim is to end with a double crochet. So I'm going to leave behind this extra chain. That means I would have started with a chain of 29. So once you're done with row 1, we're going to make a chain of 1, and we're going to jump into the increases right away. So you chain 1 and turn and go into the very first stitch with a single crochet, a double crochet, and a single crochet into the same exact stitch. And then double crochet into the next single crochet into the next double crochet into the next single crochet. And from now on, you're just going to keep alternating between single and double, just making sure you place a single crochet from every double crochet from the row below, and a double crochet in every single crochet from the row below. you'll be seeing the shorter stitches, the longer stitches here. This is a double, so it will receive a single crochet. And then the shorter stitches are singles and they will receive a double crochet. So keep doing this until the end of the row. This is row 2. So we are coming to the end of row 2, and you should end with a double crochet into the last single crochet of the previous row. Just place 1 double crochet there, and this is what we have. Now we're going on to row 3. You're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. You're going to repeat row 2. So you go into the very first stitch with 1 single, 1 double, and another single, all in the same stitch. And then keep alternating between double crochet and single crochet, making sure that you're placing a single in every double and a double in every single from the previous row. All right, so we're coming to the end of row 3, and I'm placing a single crochet into the second last double crochet from the previous row, and into the very last stitch, which is a single crochet, you're going to place 1 double crochet. All right, so this is what we are going to have. You should notice that we are only increasing at the beginning of the row for now, and we are going to repeat this 2 more times for 2 more rows so that we can get a total of 5 rows. So you make a chain of 1 and repeat row 2. Into the first stitch, 1 single, 1 double, and 1 single, and then keep alternating between double and single all the way to the end of the row, ending with a double crochet into the very last stitch. So I'm going to finish up this row and do that 1 more time so that I have a total of 5 rows, and then I'll be back to show you what to do next. This is row 4. All right guys, here I am with my 5 rows of the pattern, and that is increasing at the beginning of every row, and we have about 2 inches at the moment. It's time for us to introduce the mesh pattern just as the inspirational photo. So you're going to make a chain of 4, which counts as a double crochet chain 1, turn your work, and then into that same exact stitch you're going to go in there with a double crochet, and then chain 1, skip 1 stitch and double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next. So we are creating a mesh pattern, and then we shall go back to our original pattern. Skip 1 stitch, double crochet into the next. You're going to repeat that all the way across until the end of the row. Chain 1, skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. All right, so we're coming to the end of the row, and I have placed a double crochet into the second last stitch here. So I have one stitch left on the edge, and I'm just going to chain one, and then into that last stitch I am going to place a double crochet into it. This is what I'll have, and we're going to go back to this textured stitch. So you're going to make a chain of one and turn your work. Into the very first stitch you're going to place one single, one double, and one single. Into the next stitch you're going to place a double, but you're going to place it in the chain one space, and then one single crochet into the next double crochet. Into the chain one space you're going to place one double, one single into the next stitch, and one double into the chain one space. So you're going to repeat that all the way across. All right, so we're coming towards the end of this row, which is row 7. You're single crocheting into the next double, double crocheting into the last chain 4 space, and then you're going to single crochet into the third chain of the chain 4, counting from the base. So 1, 2, and into the third you're going to place a single, and then a double into the same exact chain, and that marks the end of row 7. So we're going to go back to repeating row 2, 2 more rows, and then we repeat the mesh row. So let's first do 2 rows resembling row 2. So you make a chain of 1, turn your work. Into the very first stitch, single, double, and single, and then continue to alternate between double crochet and single crochet until the end of the row, making sure that you end with a double crochet into the very last stitch. And do that one more time so that you have 3 rows of the textured stitch before we go onto the mesh pattern. Before we bring back the mesh pattern again. Alright guys, now we have 3 rows after the mesh row, and now we're going to repeat row 6, which is the mesh row. You're going to repeat the same exact process. You're going to make a chain of 4, which counts as a double crochet chain 1. Turn your work into the very first stitch. You're going to go in there with a double crochet, chain 1, skip over the next stitch, and double into the next. So the same exact instructions for row 6 or the mesh row, you're going to bring them back at this point. So this is going to resemble row 6, and then you will repeat row 7 for the next row. Let's see, this is row 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we are at row 10. Row 10 resembles row 6, and row 11 will resemble row 7. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back. I'll have timestamps so that you can follow along easily. Alright guys, now we have repeated rows 6 and 7 at this point, another mesh row and a block row. So we are going to still do a total of 3 rows. So this is the very first textured row. I'm going to do 2 more rows resembling row 2, and then create a mesh row just as we did at row 6 and row 10. So 2 more textured rows and then a mesh row. So basically we are repeating, if this resembles row 6, this row 11 resembles row 7, we're going to repeat row 8, 9, 10, and 11. So we want the same exact look one more time. So I'm going to do 2 rows of the textured stitch and then introduce the mesh row, and then do 1 row of the textured stitch, and I'll meet you back at that point. So that means once you finish row 9, you're going to just keep repeating row 6 to 9 again 2 more times in order to get to the level where I want you to be. The moment you get done with row 9, just keep repeating rows 6 to 9. Alright guys, after repeating rows 6 to 9 2 more times, you're going to have something that looks like this. Now at this point I have 6 inches, and this is what you're going to consider for size extra small and small. Alright, so this is where we should be at the moment. This should bring you to your upper bust or to your armpit level. So that's our aim, to grow this piece until the armpit level before the extension. Medium and large, you're going to consider 6.5 inches, and then XL to XL, you're going to consider 7 to 7.5. Now, if you don't have your required inches here for the bigger sizes, you're just going to repeat row 2 again and again until you get to that measurement here, maybe 7 inches or 6.5 as I have mentioned. So at this point I'm going to make a chain of 1 because I've achieved my 6 inches that I want for my size small. I'm going to make a chain of 1 and cut my yarn and then pull through. So I'm going to attach my next color, which is the green color. I'm now going to start creating that multicolored effect as seen in the inspirational photo. So I'm going to attach my yarn in this last stitch of the previous row, and I'm going to repeat row 2, the textured row. So attach your yarn, make a chain of 1 into the first stitch. You're going to place 1 single, 1 double, and 1 single, and then continue to alternate between double and single all the way across. So make sure you end with a double crochet into the very last stitch of this row. Just as we've been doing for these block rows or the textured rows. Alright, so we're done with our green row, and now we're going to create extensions on our piece towards the side of the top. So after your last stitch here, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. We're going to go back to our original color, which is white. And we're going to create our extensions towards the back of the top, the one that wraps around the body. So we're going to create, we're going to do some calculations. Let me zoom out a little bit so that you can see exactly what's going on. So you're going to take a measurement across the base of this top, well stretched. Don't overstretch it. So I have about 18 inches. So you're going to get your bust measurement and subtract 3 inches. So the bust measurement that I am working for is 33 inches. So I'll take off the 3 inches and I'll remain with 30. Then I'm going to take this measurement, 18 inches when slightly stretched, and that will give me 30, the remainder from your bust measurement when you subtract 3. And then you're going to subtract 18 inches from that remainder. So 30 minus 18 is 12. So you're going to divide the 12 that you're left with by 2, because we need an extension on this side and this side. So we're going to attach our yarn on this side. After the very last stitch, actually that double crochet here, and we're going to make a chain of 6 inches. So that's because 12 divided by 2 is 6. That's why I'm going to make a chain of 6 inches, and I should make sure that I consider an odd number of chains. So this is to attach, this won't count as anything, and I'm going to make my chain of 6 inches. 3, so I have 25 chains here. Let me see how long that is. When stretched, it goes beyond 6. So let me just take off 2 chains to make it 23 chains. Make sure you have an odd number of chains. So when I stretch this, it can get to 6 inches, as you can see here. So I have 23 chains right now, and I'm going to make a chain, I'm going to turn my work. After your odd number of chains, you're going to go into the second chain from the hook and place a single crochet and then a double crochet into the next chain, single into the next and double into the next. So we are working this row in the opposite direction of the previous row, just like we've been doing for the earlier stages of the top. And we are maintaining the texture of our top, but creating extensions towards the sides of the top. We shall create the second extension when we get to the end of this row, as you'll see later on. But for now, we are creating the textured effect for the extension towards the back of the top. Alright, so we are coming to the body of the top. I'm placing a single crochet into the next and a double crochet into the last chain of the extension, and then single crochet into the double crochet on the body of the top. We shall deal with these later on. We shall weave them in. And then you're going to just go across, placing a double into each single and a single into each double. Go all the way across until you're almost at the end of the row, and I'll show you how to create the second extension just like we've done this one. Alright, so I'm coming to the end of the row, and as you can see, I've just placed a double into this single and I have 2 stitches left on my row. But before we go any further, you're going to grab a separate white yarn to create the second extension. So remember, this side we did an extension of 23 chains, or whatever number of chains that you needed to get your measurements right. So you're going to subtract 1 chain from the extension chain on this side. So since I had a total of 23 here, I'm going to make a total of 22 on this side. So just subtract 1 chain, and then before you get done with the row, we want to create an extension on this side. So into the last stitch, which should be a single crochet, this single crochet here where you would have placed the double crochet, you're going to attach your yarn and make your chain less by 1 chain from the opposite extension. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I have made 22 chains, and I'm going to make 1 more chain and close off. 1 more chain, pull through, and then you pull on this because it's not supposed to count as anything. That was just a chain to close off the extension chain. So you're going to go back to the loop that you left behind, and you're going to finish off the textured stitch on the body of the top. So into the second last stitch of the body of the top, you're going to place a single crochet and then a double crochet in this last single crochet where we have attached our yarn to create the extension. So you're going to place 1 double crochet there. And now we're going to go onto the extension chain. You're going to place a single crochet. Remember, this doesn't count as anything. This was just to attach. So you're going to go into the next chain and place a single crochet. We're just going ahead with our pattern since we've ended with a double. So a single into the next chain and then a double into the next, and keep alternating between the 2 stitches until the end of the chain. So double, single into the next, double into the next, single into the next, until the end of the row, making sure that you end with a double crochet into the very last chain. So we're coming to the end of the chain. I'm placing a single crochet in the second last chain, and then in the very last one I'm going to place a double. And now we are done with our very first long row, the one that crosses over from the extension to the second extension. So you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. If you don't want to switch colors at this point, you can just make a chain of 1 and turn, and then continue to work your rows. But this time they're going to be plain rows. We're not going to be increasing at the beginning of the row. So for me, I'll get my next color, which is pink. And then make a slip knot. At this point, you're going to feel free to play with different colors depending on the effect that you want to create for yourself. You're going to turn your work so that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous row. You're going to attach your yarn into the very first double crochet, the last double crochet of the previous row, but now it's the first stitch of the new row. So you're going to attach your yarn, make a chain of 1, and into the same stitch you're going to place a single crochet, then a double into the single from the previous row, and then a single into the double of the previous row. So keep alternating between the 2 stitches all the way across. You should notice that this time we haven't increased at the beginning of the row. We are just placing the opposite stitch from the row below. So if you have a single crochet, place a double crochet. And we have already figured out how to tell that this was a single, this was a double. The doubles are longer and then the singles are shorter. So this is row 2. You just make a chain of 1 and turn. That's if you're not switching colors. But if you're switching colors, you're making sure that you're working in the opposite direction of the previous row. And then you attach your yarn in the last double crochet of the previous row. And then make a chain of 1, single crochet in that same double crochet, and keep alternating between double and single all the way across. So this time round, plain rows only. I'm going to demonstrate that on the second row of pink, because for pink I'm going to work 2 rows, and then you go ahead and keep building the body of your top until you get the length that you want for yourself, or until the underbust, because we want to bring back the mesh effect towards the bottom of the top. So let me go ahead and finish up this row, and I'll meet you back at the end. Alright guys, so we've made it all the way to this side, so I'll just continue with the stitch pattern until I make it to the end of the row, all the way across the extension on the opposite end. So we've come to the end of the row, and I'm ending with a double crochet into the last single crochet of the previous row. And now I'm going to make a chain of 1. This is what you're going to do if you're not switching colors. You just make a chain of 1 and turn your work, and single crochet into the very first stitch, double crochet into the next single crochet from the previous row. So from now on, all rows are going to start with single crochet and end with double crochet. And our main aim is to create a straight edge on the sides of our top. So as you can see here, we are no longer creating increases. So we are going to maintain this line all the way down until we get the thickness of the top that we want before the next design. So I'll be mentioning how many rows that I ended up doing, and also how many inches to consider for the different sizes before we go on to the next step. Just keep repeating the plain row of the textured stitch, and feel free to play around with colors to create different effects. Then I'll meet you back when I get the thickness for my top. All right, so we kept interchanging the colors until we got to our underbust, and at that point I'm at around 9.5 inches. So you keep working until you get to your underbust level, and I've done a total of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 rows after creating the extensions towards the side, and that has given me a total of about 3 inches. 3 inches for the thickness after the extension towards the side. So now the total is about 9.5 inches from the top all the way down. Actually about 9.3, roughly 9.5 inches. So once you get to your underbust, I'm going to make one more row of the white color and then reintroduce the mesh stitch or the mesh pattern. So So I'm going to make one more row of white, and then we shall reintroduce the mesh pattern, and then make another row, and then go back to the colors just as the inspiration photo. So I'm going to go into the very first stitch with one single crochet, one single crochet into the very first double crochet on this side, and then one double crochet into the next single, single into the next double, double into the next single, and repeat that all the way across until the end of the row, ending with a double crochet into the very last stitch. Alright, so I've ended my row with a double crochet into the very last stitch, and now I'm going to create the mesh pattern. So I'm going to make a chain of 4, which counts as a double crochet chain 1, and then turn my work, skip the next stitch, and double crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next. So you're going to repeat this all the way across, and I'll meet you back towards the end of the row, and I show you how to wind up this mesh stitch. So we are bringing back what we had here onto the bottom of the top. All right, so we're coming to the end of the row, the mesh row. So you're going to make a chain of 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the second last stitch. Now we have only the single crochet on the edge. You're going to go into it with a double crochet. This is just to maintain the number of stitches that we have for the previous row. We want to make sure that we balance the stitches from the previous row onto the new row. So you'll end with 1 double crochet in each of the last 2 stitches. So from here, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. We're going to still make the block row or the textured row. So into the first stitch, you're going to make a chain, a single crochet, sorry. And then, all right, so after your single crochet into the first stitch, you're going to place a double crochet into the next double crochet, because we have 2 stitches here. So one gets a single, one gets a double, and then a single into the chain 1 space, and a double into the double crochet, single into the chain 1, double into the double crochet. So you're going to repeat this all the way across, ending with, I'll meet you back at the end and I show you how to wind up. So at the end of the row, I'm still going into each chain 1 space with a single, and then a double into the next double crochet. Now at the end here, you're going to go into the chain 4 space with a single, and then a double crochet in the 3rd chain, counting from the base of the chain 4. So into the 3rd chain, you're going to place a double. Now we're going to go back to the plain rows, just as you see these ones. And we are going to keep switching colors in any way that you want until you get the length of the top that you want for yourself. So I'm going to just go ahead and keep maintaining the straight line on the edges of the top while switching to different colors, and then I'll be back to show you what that looks like. So for the next rows, you're going to just make a slip knot. That's if you're switching to another color, you attach into the last stitch of the previous row, and then single crochet into the first, and keep alternating between double and single, and making sure that you end with a double crochet into the last stitch. And that's the row that you're going to keep repeating until you get your desired top length. All right, so once you get the length of the top that you want For me, that is a total of 12 inches, as you can see here. You're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn. Pull through. So we are done with the body of the top. Now you're going to get a darning needle. Here is mine. And you're going to determine which side you want to be the back side of your piece. So for me, I want maybe this side to be the back side. You're going to turn your top onto the wrong side, and you're going to get each loose end. You get like the green one and then weave it into the green row. You're going to make sure you do this carefully and intentionally so that we get a very clean finish. So you thread into the darning needle and find the best way possible to weave in the tail. In and out of a few stitches of the same color. So once you're done with that, you can cut off the excess yarn. So you're going to do this on the wrong side of your work. Get the next one, and we are going to keep doing this until all the loose ends are weaved in. So you can see that. You're going to do that for all these ones and the ones on this side. And then I'll show you how to create the loops to create the lace up at the back of the top. All right, so this is what you should have at the end of it all after getting rid of the loose ends on the side of the halter top. Now we're going to get our main color, which is the off-white. And then we are going to attach it in any corner, be it this one or this one, the top corner of the bottom extension of the piece. So let's start with this side. You're going to attach your yarn, and then you're going to clean up the edge. Just find a way of placing single crochet stitches in each row. So make sure you note down how many stitches that you end up with at the end of the row when you get to the bottom of the top. So far I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Then in the mesh row, you're going to just place a total of 2 single crochets. That brings us to 15 stitches, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, so I have 22 stitches. You're going to take note of that number of stitches that you have here because we want to balance it with the stitches on the opposite side when it comes to this part. So you're going to make a chain of 4, which counts as a double crochet chain 1. Turn your work. And then you're going to skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, double crochet into the next. So we are creating the loops where we shall lace up the back of our top. All right, so we're coming to the end. So far we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces. I'm going to make a chain of 1 and go into the very last stitch, and that will give me a total of 11 spaces. So this is what I'll have. And now I'm going to make a chain of 1 and turn my work. Now I want to go ahead and clean up the top edge of my top and then come to the opposite side. So after your chain of 1, you're going to go into the double crochet space with 2 single crochets and then 1 single crochet into the single crochet row that cleaned up the edge on the side. And then we're going to continue to place 1 single crochet in each stitch. Just find the best way possible to clean up this edge, going into each and every chain, because this was an extension chain towards the side of the top. Okay, so this is what we have. And now we are going to go onto the side, the slanting side. So you're going to place 2 single crochets in each row that is a double crochet on the edge, and then 1 single crochet in each row with a single crochet on the edge. So the next is a double crochet, so I'll place 2 singles, and then the one that has a single crochet on the edge will get 1 single. So you're going to repeat this until the top corner of the top. This is going to kind of define the edges of the slanting part of the top. All right, so we are almost coming to the end, and I'll place a single crochet into the last row, and this is what we have. You can see the difference between the edge that has been worked on and this one that hasn't yet been worked on. So you're going to make a chain of 1, actually 2. Just make a chain of 2, and then we're going to go across the top of our halter top, going into the foundation chain. Make sure each chain gets a single crochet. So that means you're going to make sure you have the same exact number of single crochets as your foundation chain for the halter top. For me that was 30, and I'm going to make sure I have 30 stitches across before the chain to space that I just created here. All right, so once you make it across, you're going to make a chain of 2, just like we did here in this corner, and then go onto the side and place 2 single crochets in each row that starts with a double crochet, and then 1 single crochet in each row that has a single crochet on the edge, just like we did here. So go all the way down, and also clean up the top edge here, going into each chain, and then I'll meet you back at this corner. All right, so we've made it all the way to this corner here. Now we're going to go ahead and clean up the edge on this side as well. Remember the number that I told you to take note of here. Mine was 22 stitches across the edge. So I'm going to make a chain of 1 and clean up the edge, making sure that I get a total of 22 stitches, which balances what we had on the opposite side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. So once you get the same exact number of stitches as the cleanup row on the opposite side, you're going to make a chain of 4, turn your work, and you're going to skip over the next stitch and double crochet into the next. That will create our very first space. Chain 1, skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. And you're going to repeat that all the way across, creating the mesh pattern. And making sure that you have the same exact number of mesh spaces on this side as the opposite side. So we're going to cross check once we are done here. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. That's the same exact number of chain spaces or mesh spaces that we have on the opposite side, as you can see here. Now we're going to make a chain of 1, and this is going to be the very final row. It's going to wrap around, wrap across the top edge of the mesh pattern and then go all the way down, and we wind up on this side. So that is going to be worked on the right side. So once you turn your work, you're going to be on the right side of your work. Now into each mesh space, you're going to place 2 single crochets running down the mesh pattern. 2 single crochets in each chain 1 space. So once you have 2 single crochets in each, you're going to make a chain of 1 and turn your work. Now we are going to work across the base of the top. You're going to go into the same space, the chain 4 space, with 2 single crochets, and then start working 1 single crochet in each and every stitch. All the way across. All right, once you make it to the opposite side, you're going to continue to place 2 single crochets in each chain 1 space to clean up the edge of the mesh pattern on the opposite side as well. All right, so once you're done with this, you're going to slip stitch into this single crochet and make a chain of 1, cut your yarn, and then you can get rid of the loose ends using a darning needle, and then I'll be back to show you how to work the straps. Alright guys, we are through with the general structure of the top. We are now going to go onto the straps. That's the only thing that's left. And to do that, I'm out of this color. Alright, since I'm out of the main color, I'm going to introduce my cream color for the strap. And I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to make a chain of about 150. Alright, so I've made a chain of 180 instead of 150. Now I'm going to go onto the top and slip stitch across the top of our project. Into each and every stitch, you're going to just make a slip stitch. So you can see the contrast between the light color that we had and this one that is going across the top of our project. So keep slip stitching in each and every stitch until you get to the second corner on top of the project. All right, so we've come to the second corner, and you're going to make the same exact number of chains. So I have 180 on this side. I'm going to go ahead and make 180 chains. So once you have the same exact number of chains on both sides, you're going to make a chain of 1 and cut your yarn, pull through, and then you fasten off. So you're going to get rid of the loose ends on the ends of the straps. And now we are going to turn our work onto the back side or the wrong side of our work. And you're going to fold over your top like this. Now we're going to bring our straps, and they're going to lace up into the loops that we just created at on the sides of the top. So you can go into the very first space, just like this, and then maybe skip a space or 2, and then you go into the next space. So for me, I'm skipping 2 spaces all the way down. I'm going to continue to lace up, skipping 2 spaces. Alright, so once you get towards the base of the top, you can go ahead and just make a knot at the base, and that's basically it. This is how the back side will look like. And then when it comes to the front, you're going to have something that looks like this. So let's see the final look of our top. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to check out the written pattern on all my online shops. Thanks for watching. Bye.